you should see why you need EMS, total protection surge stuff, right? See my PowerPoint?
I see it. I see it.
Okay, let me just moving other clutter off of here. Okay, so yeah, and that should work. Let me see. Do you have? Yeah, look at that. My touchscreen laser pointer's working too.
Wow.
Cool.
Holy smokes.
Okay, everybody. So it looks like it is the time to begin.
Wow, look at that. Yeah. Yeah, so to all of you who are watching this online, and to our audience here at Quartzsite, welcome to the presentation by Mike Sokol, live from his office on the right coast, and our place here at the Quartzsite Sports Vacation and RV Show, live right on the Midway here.
Actually, remember, this is the Funkworks lab, not the Skunkworks. The Funkworks, because I'm right outside of Funkstown. Funkworks lab.
Funkworks lab. Boy, I gotta say that carefully. Ooh, doggies, I could bungle that, and then we'd have to have like a censor button.
Okay, so it looks like we're recording, so we're all good. So I'm going to basically, I've got about 10 minutes or so of presentation here that I can do. And then if you want to jump in and ask any questions, you can. And then after that, we'll open up for general questions, anybody that would like to talk about anything. Today, we're going to focus on surge protectors, though.
Yeah.
There's Joseph is coming in.
Give you $1 to pronounce his last name correctly.
Wow. Oh. Yeah. Okay. I'm not even going to attempt this. Okay.
Krotowski.
So let me see. Okay. So now we should be. There we go. So we've got 3 more people besides us on. Okay. So today I'm going to talk about surge protectors. That's going to be the focus on this. We can drift a little off to the side on that, but the main thing I want to be a surge protectors. This will be, in fact, this is all you're recording right now, Tony. It says, correct?
That's the theory. Yes, it says recording right on the screen.
So that means, you guys can replay this later until you're sick to death of us.
Right. Assuming I can upload it.
That's right. So I get this question constantly. I've been RVing for 10 or 20 or 30 or 40 years, however many. They go on to the point to say, I never needed a surge protector before. Why do I need it now? And so here's the thing. A lot of these campgrounds put in their power system, their power grid, maybe in the 70s, and have done very little upgrades or maybe not even much maintenance over the last 30, 40, 50 years. And that's one of the problems. And when I first started camping back in the, I guess, late 60s with my parents, when I was just a little tot, we had a Cox pop-up camper. We took all over the place. We went through like 40 states and half of Canada with this thing. There was no electricity in it. The only thing that was close to electric was an AM radio with batteries in it. Now, every single RV that you're going to see is going to have an air conditioner of some sort. Many of them have 2 or more of these things because RVs are not very well insulated. It's very difficult to insulate something that's because of the weight issues and the issues that you have with dimensions, space. Also, back in the day, maybe you had a 3-way refrigerator, maybe you had an air conditioner, but now RVs are equipped with every darn kind of electrical gadget you can possibly imagine. When you got computers and big screen TVs and load shedding devices and everything. And unless the campground's properly designed, you can create, a lot of them get under voltage, over voltage, hot skin voltage conditions. I've been doing all power distribution for 3-phase power distro in industrial situations, as well as rock and roll concerts and such for going on 50 years.
Don't have to.
Yeah, it's
okay. These guys here, we're going to mute you.
Yes.
There. We muted them. Okay, let's talk a little bit about surge protectors. Anyone else need to be muted?
Already liberal, so
I don't know. So, yes, somebody else.
I'm muting everybody. I'm muting you all. I'm doing like I do for school. Mute. Okay. Surge protectors.
So Mike, quick point.
Yes.
We have both a modern travel trailer, which has
Right.
all of the goodies, and I have
Whiz
a
bangs.
I have a 1970 Aristocrat, and one of the first things when I open the electrical is under the dinette. There is all it is glass fuses on a wood block. There are no electronics whatsoever. It's interesting how much these things have changed.
Did it actually have a grounded plug on it, or was it just a 2-prong puppy?
It was a grounded plug because I think somebody put that
and added it on. But the early ones, it was ungrounded, like old guitar amplifiers and radios and phonographs and such were ungrounded. So, okay, very good. Good point. Surge protectors, you can buy these in your home, for your computers and such. And basically that's not big enough to do your whole RV, but you can get ones that are big enough to do you can plug a 30 or 50 amp service in. So basically it can protect everything from surges. So let's define this voltage surge thing, because I get into arguments with electrical engineers about this all the time. I don't like the word surge a whole lot. It's more of a voltage spike, but that's because I'm an electronics guy. But it's defined as a very short duration over voltage event. And they can be anywhere from 200 to 2000 volts or even more. And they're generally very, very short, on the order of milliseconds long, because it could be lightning that hits the ground nearby. It could be a transformer that's kicked out, from the power company for some reason. A big motor, like a compressor motor or a well pump kicking off will generate a couple of 1,000-volt spike that wants to go into your electronics. And here's what these little spikes look like. Down here, this is our 60 hertz waveform. It's doing like 170 volts to peak. Yeah, 120 volts. RMS is actually 170 something peak. And you can see right here, there'll be this spike that just comes zipping right through. And that's the kind of thing that can cause catastrophic failure, like on the control circuit board in your refrigerator or your microwave or whatever. And it almost seems like the more expensive stuff that you've got, the more susceptible it is to dying from these spikes. And this is in fact cumulative. So you might be able to take a few of these hits, but after a while, it's just going to kill your whatever it is, and you won't be happy.
Well, and think about nowadays, if you do get one of those voltage spikes and you do fry the circuit board in your refrigerator, it could be a year or more before you can get a replacement.
You're exactly right. I've been talking to a number of guys that have said, I talked to one of the guys at the Hershey show, September, whenever it was. And he had some neat gadget he was building, and he says, but I can't take orders. It's 18 months delivery. 18 months is what they're telling him. And this is even after you diagnose this. And so, yeah, once you have a failure, you could be out for the entire camping season very easily. So we're going to divide this into a couple of different types. So the basic surge protectors are basically like a big boy version of the standard surge protector outlet strip that you might have. But they only protect you from voltage spikes that last less than a second. So they can't protect you from an overvoltage condition, or they won't warn you of an undervoltage condition, and they won't stop hot skin conditions. So that, but all the major manufacturers also make what I would call these intelligent or relay-based surge protectors. And so some of the guys will call this EMS, for electrical management system. Some companies call it total protection units or total protection units, testers, or surge protectors, or a variety of names. And they're much bigger and more expensive, and they monitor for overvoltage, undervoltage, open ground conditions. And some of them now include Bluetooth monitoring. So you can look and see what the voltage is, what your current is, were there any, spike or open ground incidents in the middle of the night? And they'll log all of this stuff for you. So it's getting pretty slick right now. So a basic one is not terribly big. So basically you can see, Stop it. These guys, just a little box in the middle, like a 30 set of 30s or 50 amp plugs on them, in and outs. And they generally will have lights on them to show that the polarity was correct and the ground was not open. Now, they cannot disconnect you from anything, but they will, in fact, go ahead and warn you when you plug them in. So they're better than nothing, but they really can't tell you what the voltage is, but they will protect you from spikes and that kind of stuff happening. Now, what we would call the EMS or the total protection units, and these are the total protection name is the ones from SurgeGuard, the ones I'm most familiar with. I've done so much testing on them. They not only have warning lights and a message screen, but they also have a big old relay inside of them. So in case something goes wrong, if in the middle of the night, the voltage goes too high, goes too low, ground opens up, something wacko happens, they will disconnect you and warn you. But now they're bigger. They're more expensive because they've got a relay, they've got a computer, they've got all that other kind of stuff. The other basic ones are not much more complicated. Here's a little $50 one that you can get. I mean, it's just got a couple of lights and it plugs in, kind of a thing. I don't really recommend this style because it kind of leverages, pulls the thing out from the weight of the wires. And this does really nothing except double check. It's okay to check polarity and stuff like that, but beyond that, it doesn't do a whole lot for you. Now, again, this all comes down, I get arguments all the time. Okay, so do you need a basic surge protector or these advanced EMS ones? And again, the basic ones are okay because they protect you from spikes, but only the total protection ones can protect you from, say, over voltage conditions. And I think over voltage conditions are extremely important if you have like a 50 amp service. If your neutral opens up coming in for whatever reason, it could even be down inside of your automatic transfer switch. You get 240 volts. Remember, on a 50 amp service coming in, it is in fact 240 volts. I get guys argue with me all the time, but that's not how, I mean, it is true. That's it. Boom. And what it does is it splits it down the middle, what we call split phase. So that one phase coming in, that's 240 volts, it's split down the middle into 120 and 120 volts, but it depends upon the neutral for that to happen. So if in fact that wire conductor opens up for whatever reason, your 240 is not going to divide evenly any longer. It could go, to 100 to 140. I've seen 180 and 60 volts occasionally. And I guarantee you, your expensive stuff will be on the high voltage side of this. It's cheap surge protectors will not do a thing. They will just let it all go through. The EMS protectors will in fact go in there and shut it down and warn you. But here's the drift. Basic surge protectors cost less than $100. So everybody says, I just need a basic one. The EMS/total protection ones cost $300 to $400. Sometimes you get them on sale for upper 200s. And that depends on if they're 30s or 50s. Whoops. Up. Okay, so yeah, there's the basic part of the presentation. So now I think that that surge protectors are a good investment because, as Tony noted, if something goes wrong in your electrical system, in terms that can take this stuff out, that's when you can do a severe amount of damage. Now, one of the things that I'm pitching to a couple of the manufacturers is a grant for me to go do an assay and a study of campgrounds around the country, because I really think that there's some things that could be done that will help with this, keep it better and teach maintenance. But we're also seeing a bunch of things on electric vehicles coming in and people wanting to charge their EV trucks, their EV toads or whatever they've got in the same pedestal that they're also running their RV off of. And there's a bunch of code things going on. So one of the things that I'm looking at, I've actually done consulting work for the NEC code panels. And so what I would love to do is go do this study to try to figure out just how bad it really is. I've got all the testing stuff. You guys know that. I got all that. I can do that. But I really think that being able to teach maintenance staff better ways to measure and clean and test connectors. Plus, I really think surge protectors for you guys, advanced ones, are a cheap investment because, as Tony alluded to, and it's true, even if let's say that you had a $500 deductible and it does $5,000 worth of damage, it's really, really easy to do $5,000 worth of damage nowadays. You will be out for the season. And I am confident that the bank is still going to want to have your monthly payment, even though your RV is parked over at a lot. And to add insult to injury, I've had a couple of service centers want to charge you storage while they're waiting to get parts for 6 months. I'm like, oh, ouch, my head is hurting with all of this. Okay, so let's think. Any questions right now? There's the Tony. What have you got? So there's my basic lead-in discussion points.
Well, it's interesting. I talked to the electrician. Here we are at Quartzsite, and I wish I had a portable camera to show you the electrical that we're plugged into. I'm very fortunate that they gave us, we're on 30 amps. There's a rig next to me that's 50. And I talked to the electrician, and he said that over there is a power pole. 2,600 watts is what that thing is run for. You know, that's the power on the pole itself. And then he said it on that big fat transformer, it drops it down to 480 volts. And then it comes here and steps down to 120. So you know what we normally plug into. Well, if one of those components goes bad, that is a whole lot of zap coming my way.
Okay. No, you're absolutely right. I had a, and this would be 20 odd years ago. I had a, one of my businesses just a mile or so from the house. I went in for an insurance claim. Technically, you know, I had to go look at what happened. And there was an 11,000 volt line that had fallen over top of the 240 volt line feeding into the office, and dumped 11,000 volts into everything, and all these computers. This was in the, I guess, early mid 80s when everything was plugged in. And I was able, I had to take, you know, computers and, you know, copiers and everything apart and show damage to the circuit boards. The traces were just vaporized off of these things. I mean, nothing was recoverable. Everything was gone. It just was.
Imagine how fast the hard drive spun before it quit.
Oh, I've got, wait a minute. Talk to them for a second. I've got something to show you.
Okay.
I'll be right back. Do a little soft shoe. I'll be right back in 13 seconds.
So my suggestion, I completely concur with Mike about the EMS units. As somebody who uses a travel trailer, the first thing I do before I even back into a spot is I will take I have a Hughes Power Watchdog, and I will take it and plug it into the pedestal before I even back in. And if the power is no good, I'll go and ask for a different spot. And I've also been where I've been at a campground and everything was hunky and dory, both. And then all of a sudden the neighbor comes, and I don't know what they did, but the power went to heck, and the power watchdog alerted me and shut off the power. And again, I asked the campground to move me, but this guy was doing something funny because he's running 2 air conditioners on a 30 amp. He had somehow buggered up this trailer something fierce. And so again, the power watchdog saved me, and no harm, no foul. The other neat thing that I like about this thing is I can see how many volts and amps I'm drawing right now.
Their Bluetooth app is really fantastic, I think.
Yeah, so let's connect and see what it says. It might be too far from it. Come on, connect. Yeah, I'm too far from it. Darn it. But I stepped over there a few moments ago, and I saw I'm drawing just 2 amps at the moment. So I'm not using much power, but that's because it's daytime.
So now I'm going to show you guys something, and Tony's going to give you $1, the first person who can guess what this is. And I'll give Tony well, I won't give him $1 because he should ought to know what this is.
Uh-oh.
So this is hanging on my wall in my office.
Oh, I know what that is.
What is it?
No. Peggy said it's a sun visor, and actually it really could serve as
it actually works. It would work pretty well as a sun visor.
That would, but it's a
anybody 14-inch platter from an Okie Data 3030 Winchester hard drive.
Yeah, that's it. That's
Look at
pretty
that, baby.
Slick.
Yeah, and so this is 10 megabytes.
Yeah,
10 megabytes on this, not gigabytes, not terabytes, megabytes of this whole thing. I just can't help myself. But the modern stuff, I mean, you see what you've got down inside of any of these little devices. I mean, everything is just so small and so sensitive. Did anybody guess that was a 14-inch hard drive platter? Now he's nodding front. He's nodding in the front. Yes.
This gentleman right here. Let's see. Nolan Brown. I owe you $1. I'm not sure when I'll see you next, but I'll give you $1 when I do. Yeah. I'll keep one in my pocket just for you, sir.
Just put it back into RV travel.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
A donation. There we go. I'm gonna talk to Chuck and make sure it makes it in there. Okay.
Well, I had at the show somebody dropped off a 20, and I told Chuck I owe him a 20. Now I owe him 21.
So yeah, like I said, I like the fact that you can monitor things. However, one of the things that happen when you have the ability to monitor amperage on an RV, people then take it right to the edge because they say, I'm paying for 30 amps. I want 30 amps. So they'll take the 29.5 amps. Although they don't understand that if you are doing what we will call continuous power for over 3 hours, basically circuit breakers have to be derated to 80% of their actual value. So this is why if you have a 50 amp outlet on an electric vehicle charger, they max out at 40 amps continuous because, an EV charger is going to try to draw that for 10 hours straight. So, and this is also assuming that everything is properly cleaned and the connections are tight and properly maintained. I had somebody had called me from a campground in this, I guess, in the fall after they'd gone through a flood, and the whole campground was underwater 3 or 4 feet. And I asked them what they had done for maintenance on the pedestal, and they said they just let them dry out. So they had been underwater for 3 or 4 days. And I said, well, at the very least, I would replace the circuit breakers and the receptacles. It's not horribly expensive. It's probably $30-$40 worth of parts per unit, but they said, no, they didn't do it. They were working okay. But there you go. I'm like, oh, brother.
Mike, to your point, that makes me think of a question. I was looking at my 30 amp plug and it looks a little corrody, but not corroded, but it's a 6-year-old cord. So I took some contact cleaner before I came on this trip and cleaned it off. What are your thoughts on that kind of activity?
Contact cleaner should be used all the time. So, my favorite, now remember when I said I did rock concerts, I would use, mixing consoles are $250,000. Nobody complained what I did to keep these things running. So sometimes we'd have 3 of them, and, I would have $1.5 million worth of gear that it wasn't mine. I was responsible to keep working. So I would always try to find the absolute best ways to do this. So I would use a product called Deoxit, DEOXIT, as a little spritz. And it not only breaks up the oxidation on there, it also provides a very thin layer of lubricant and something that will keep it from further oxidizing. And if you don't want to spend the big money on it, it's $15 for a little can, but it works great. But if you don't want to spend the big money on it, you can get like CRC makes a decent cleaner that you can spritz it with. But when you spritz it with that, it takes off all of the various lubricants on it. And then what you do is you go get a can of silicone spray and just do a little spritz of silicone spray on there. And this is what my kids, I've taught them to do, my adult children now, they would be cleaning up, video games, because that's a lot of the same stuff. They could get cartridges to plug in that everybody thought was dead. They just needed to be cleaned up. So yeah, I think that a cleanup of that is good. Plus, if you want to be a good Samaritan, you have a little spritz of like Deoxit cleaner, you spritz that right in the pedestal outlet that you're going to plug into. Because again, you know, those things lead a sad, sad existence. They do. I mean, talk about rough. And again, I've got ones, if they're really, really loose, they want to fall out. If you go to plug it in and it just wants to fall out, that means it doesn't have enough tension on it, and something, you know, it's going to overheat at some point. And you will, because everybody's running right at the max of 30 amps or 50 amps or whatever the heck they've got.
The contact cleaner that I happen to have, I was at some hardware store somewhere needing silicone spray, and there's a WD-40 section, and they had silicone spray, dry lubricant, contact cleaner, of course, regular old well, they saw me coming. I picked up one of everything on that aisle. And so I happened to use WD-40's contact cleaner. And I had to do that in my older computer because sometimes the 1/8 inch audio jack wouldn't work. I'd spritz it and back to normal. Yeah. And I could hear
they make a good product. Now, here's the thing. I'm doing a research on this because I did the knee-jerk reaction, and somebody said, you know, I just use regular WD-40 to clean stuff out. I said, well, you don't want to do that on plastic and rubber because it'll deteriorate it. And a guy took me to task, you know, and he said, au contraire, they've got studies of this over on the WD-40 site. And I looked on there, and they're going on and on about it's safe for plastics, it's safe for rubber. And, you know, I can remember my dad spraying the plug every week on his trailer, and eventually the rubber just rotted apart. So I'm still doing research. I'm still doing research on this because they're saying they've got special sauce in there. But I do know that if you take rubber and you put it in any kind of petroleum products, I know you do not want to do like Vaseline or something like that. It will cause that rubber to break down eventually. So it's it's still out on this. I may go out. I think in my dad's garage, he actually would buy WD-40 by the gallon. You could buy gallon cans of this stuff. Yeah, Tony's going, really? Gallon cans? Exactly. And he had a funnel. He would fill up little spritzers with this thing. So you could buy a thing that looked like a water bottle with a spritzer, and it said WD-40 on the side. So you could load up a quart of this stuff at a time. And Dad loved this, man. He'd spray this on everything.
I love the smell of that stuff.
Oh, this is neat. But I know that their contact cleaner and silicone stuff, that whole line of that stuff is really quite good. And you can get them in any auto parts store. And it's probably what, $7 or $10 for a big can of that stuff.
Yeah, as I said, whoever set up that WD-40 aisle at that hardware store saw me coming because I bought one of everything.
They're pretty colors.
Yeah, that too.
All lined up. You just want this stuff, right?
Yep.
Okay, so yeah, I think that cleaning stuff regularly is a good idea. Don't leave your short power cord laying out in the weather, right? You just don't. If you have a connector that's on the ground, like to extend it, better to put it up on a bucket. You can put a bucket down upside down and put another one on the top with slots out of it, just to kind of keep it out of the water. Because that just creates corrosion issues. Plus, if it's in the water, you can create a gradient shock potential where you step in a puddle that can shock you or even kill you.
That you would not then be in the no shock zone.
No, you would not. You would not. And you know, in my studies of electric shock go back into the 70s when I used to work for Corning Glass, and I was one of the first guys that was trained as an OSHA level electrical safety guy for my crew. I had, like a crew of like 6 electricians that work for me, building machines and doing plant maintenance and everything. And those guys at OSHA put the fear of God into all of us over shocks and, arc faults and all kinds of other stuff. So I've been trained and cognizant of this since the early 70s. And then of course I did rock and roll stuff where you get shocked on stage and all that other fun stuff. So I got to be really, really careful with this. I knocked myself out once when I was 22 years old, doing all the stupid things that you could do. So I tell people, don't be like me. Learn from me.
Yeah. Don't put a penny in a light socket. That was my trick as a kid.
I never did that. I tried to build a perpetual motion machine when I was 8 with 2 big motors and a bunch of switches. And I figured the one that was acting as the motor had a bigger pulley on it than the one that was acting as the generator. And I literally wired all this up in the basement and hooked it right into the panel. And then I'm 8 years old. And remember, my dad was a history teacher. My mom was an emergency room nurse before she became a mom, which a very good thing to have, right? And the thing went blooey, and it blew fuses. This is when you had fuses in the panel. And they're down there. What are you doing down there? I said, nothing, Mom. Nothing. But yeah, I never did the penny stuff. But I then started doing amplifiers, and I've had a very long career in electronics and trying to keep from getting shocked.
Yeah, when we sold that house when I was a kid, the outlet was still black.
Oh yeah. But every kid does it with paperclip and stuff. I knew better.
Oh
than
yeah.
That. But like I said, perpetual motion. If I would have invented that, back in what would this have been, like 1962? We'd all have flying cars right now. I'm sorry, guys. It just did not work.
Oh, well, doggone it.
Okay. Any other questions here? What are any other thoughts or diversions, tangents?
We have a couple of chats. Let me click on that. All right, let's see. From Gregory Brott, I have a progressive 50 amp EMS, and occasionally I must hook to a 30 amp site. Can I use my 50 amp, or do I need to buy a 30 amp as well?
Ooh. Wait a minute.
That's a good one.
Entertain them for 10 seconds. I've got one.
Yeah, but so we've seen, speaking of electricity, I pointed out Courtney's fifth wheel across the way. It has 1,200 watts of solar on the roof and 1,080 amps of Battleborn batteries aboard. It is
that would be
a
amp
machine. Hour. Yeah, amp hour. Yeah, she has four of the two ones. Okay,
to answer the question, so if we look at this guy right here, am I on? Yeah, I am, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so this guy, all you need is a 30 amp male to a 50 amp female, and you just plug this into your 30 amp thing, and then you plug your 50 amp surge protector into this. So basically the surge protector wants to match whatever the RV is, and then you adapt from that. So you could, in fact, there's a whole variety. You could, wait a minute, I'm even adapting more. You could also do this. You could go from here. Whoops, wrong sex. I'm sorry. I'm confused. I don't have one. Oh, I have one here.
San Francisco.
Oh, whatever. So this guy right here, this would be all you'd need. You can get these for what, $15? They saw, there's a whole section at Lowe's now on, RV trailer hookup stuff. I was there a couple of weeks ago. I was pretty impressed. They had a whole big section on this stuff. But yeah, you always make the surge protector match whatever your RV shore power is, and then you adapt to that to make it do its thing. And then you could, let's say for instance,
and then
if you wanted to adapt from a 30 amp generator, you would go from here, the generator, to say a 30 amp here. And then you go from the 30 amp to here, right? And then you can plug your 50 amp RV in here. Now, again, every one of these connections is, in fact, a failure point. I don't like to have more of these than you really need to. But a lot of times, if all you were trying to do was, say, charge your batteries up from your little generator, then that's the kind of thing you do. I built a lot of my own crazy adapters, but all of the stuff is available off the shelf for this. And then, like I said, I just answered a question on the F-150 Power Boost today. And I went in through and I explained that you can, in fact, use a surge guard product then, coming off of the generator. I know that they say they never fail, but I had a guy with a Honda 3000 fail, and it went to 180 volts and burned everything up.
Now, and so then Gregory would be able to still use his 50 amp EMS with all of those adapters, even down to 20 amp. Plug it into
you could adapt it down to a 20 amp, and it would still now. You do not get more power. I mean, there's no such thing as a free lunch. You're still
Darn it.
limited to the, I know, which means I just had lunch. Yes. Okay. And see, I'm easily diverted by the talks of food, but you could plug this into a 20 amp unit, but you're only still going to get 20 amps out of it, which then adapts to a 30 amp and then adapts to the 50 amp. And now the vast majority of RVs don't actually use 240 volts inside of them, but we send 240 volts into them, into their panel, and then they only use single pole stuff. But it won't hurt it to plug it into a 30 or a 20. They're all rated for that, and that's how everybody does it.
Very good. So we've answered Greg's question, and also appreciate, by the way, those of you who are watching from wherever you're watching from. We also appreciate your being here, and of course, reading RV Travel. Any other
I've
questions?
got I not only do a column on Saturday, my regular RV electricity one. I also do one on Mondays. That is my jam session. Just Ask Mike, which is a little simpler kind of stuff. But you know, I can really go into the weeds if I'm not careful with this. And so I also have an RV electricity forum there that I do, that I answer more technical questions. And of course, you know, I have a RV electricity Facebook group and RV electricity YouTube channel. And I just like electricity a lot.
Yeah. You're charged up by it.
Exactly. Let me see. Do I have my proper shirt on? Look at this. Yeah.
Oh,
Electrons. Yeah,
there we
look
go.
at that. Okay, wait a minute. Here's another dollar question. Why did I pick black, yellow, and red colors for my shirts and hats and such? Ding, 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 ding. And there's a reason. Ding, ding, ding.
Oh, wait, black,
Anybody
yellow,
know?
and red?
Black, yellow, and red. Remember back in the 60s, they had Ready Kilowatt, the little guy with the lightning bolts and the light bulb head and all that. Guess what colors he was? Black, yellow, red.
Well, now none of us get $1.
You all owe me $1. So next time I see you, I'm going to collect.
Uh-oh.
But yeah, no, you know, and so here, now this actually is a good point. Let's just talk a little bit about shock stuff, because I think this is also a good thing to note. You know, what you want to do if you're going to be testing anything, you never want to lay your hand just directly on something, anything that could possibly be energized, because you have more muscles in your hand to clamp down than open up. And when you have a shock, basically every muscle in your body contracts. And so what will happen is you'll end up, you know, if this was electrified, when you touch it, your hand will clamp onto it. And I've had this happen to me, I think twice. You cannot let go no matter how loud you scream. You've got to like yank yourself off of it and break it loose. But an old electrician showed me this, what you would do, you'd scrape a knuckle on this thing. And this could be something as simple as the aluminum ladder on the back of your RV. If you touch this with your hand a little tiny bit, and you're shocked, your hand automatically disconnects you from this. And I remember one time I went walking into an office that had no lights on, and I'm just kind of reaching forward to try to find the light switch, and I was just doing this. I didn't realize an electrician had left live wires hanging out of a box. And I touched it with my hand and went bang, you know, and I'm like, what the heck was that? You know, and then I go get a flashlight and I look, and there's just bare wires hanging out and they're energized. But if I would have done this, I could have grabbed onto it and I wouldn't have been able to let go. So it's always a good hint, always use your knuckle. And this could even be something as simple as an electrical box or a chain link fence. They can become energized. And people ask you, you know, can surge protectors protect you against this stuff? Surge protectors will protect you against an open ground coming in. However, they cannot protect you against something that I've called a reflected hot skin condition. When you have a broken ground wire between one of the pedestals that's going back to the service panel, because I normally hook like 6 of them or so together, and one of the RVs energizes all the other RVs in that line. These surge protectors cannot They cannot disconnect you from it. Even if you shut off the breakers in the panel because it's coming in the ground, you're still energized at a full 120 volts. And I've seen it.
Wow, I did not know that. That's interesting and
Yeah,
scary.
I got my electrical engineering friends. They're on the code committees and they're going, what? And, you know, and I've had discussions with a number of the guys in the committees, and they said that primarily the NEC is concerned about correct wiring. They really don't really like to discuss incorrect wiring conditions. But, you know, I've had a lifetime of working on crappy power systems, whether it's in a church or a bar or a festival stage or whatever. And I never trusted anything. I mean, and it's a good thing because I've seen some really crazy stuff. And I don't think people should just arbitrarily trust campgrounds. When you get into where you worry about is if you see an old campground with one brand new pedestal. And that's where it's dangerous, because that means somebody ran over that pedestal, and a work camper type probably has put it in and may not have wired it correctly.
We have
is this fan clubs coming by?
We do.
Say hi, wave to the people in the back. Hey, people.
We are.
Look at me. They're walking by. They're ignoring me. Get them up here.
Yeah, if you have any questions about electricity, we have the RV electricity expert on the line live. Yeah. We've had quite a few people come up who are fans of RV travel, and of course, we have a few on the line. Gregory said, big fan of RV travel. Thank you very much. It's been very positive to be here because people are just so happy. And one of the things I have to give Chuck a lot of credit for, the way he kind of drives the bus, as it were, is he encourages us all to provide real information, because we're really not beholden to the manufacturers or suppliers or any of that. It's all about serving the readers, and that's unusual in today's journalism marketplace.
And I write what I want to write. I test what I want to test. I experiment what I want to experiment with. I really do have a lab built in the back of my house. It was originally a square dance studio. So it's like 600 square feet. And of course, I wanted to originally call it the Skunk Works, but that was, you know, the one, I guess the guys that did all the military plane stuff, right? Lockheed Martin had actually copyrighted that. And I said, well, I'm 500 feet outside of Funkstown. So hence it is the Funk Works. So nobody can deny me that. I don't think there's another Funk Works anywhere.
Probably not.
So yeah, so now this is my retirement gig. You know, I'm in soft retirement. I get to just play with stuff like this. So I'm doing air conditioner studies and, you know, electric vehicle studies. And I'm trying to use, you know, I've written for the RV industry for a good 10 or 11 years, but, you know, I've been a pro sound engineer. I've written for all of the pro sound guys for like 35 years. And I've been doing this kind of stuff very seriously for 50 years. So, I really, really enjoy figuring this stuff out.
So Mike, since we've been unfettered, as it were, do you want to see
somebody with a red chef hat behind you, Tony? Where did you just go by?
Yeah.
What was that all about? Oh, I'm sorry. I was diverted.
No,
we've been unfettered.
We have some great barbecue and other food here. I had some barbecue Monday, whatever, and boy, it was good. They're just out there with the smoking all kinds of stuff. Well, and speaking of smoking, we could talk a little bit about we could either talk about the GeoPro,
right,
or what you're doing with smoking foods.
Smoking foods, right. Okay, well, talk a little bit about this. I'm trying to take my love of food. You know, my wife was a catering manager for a number of years, and she's used to feeding 500 at a time. And it's just down to me and her now, as it's hard for her to adjust down to 2. But our kids are still in the area. They like to eat. And my one son is a graduate of Culinary Institute with a baking and pastry degree, with extra degrees in being a sommelier. So, you know, for wine, and he has a degree in making chocolate, if you could believe that. I mean,
man. I need to come to Funkstown.
Oh yeah, I need to come to Funkstown. So, I am the grill meister now. So even though the kids are taking over it because they're all good at it, blah, blah, blah. So I started doing some experiments. So I got Jackery to send me, I have a 1500 watt Explorer and a 300 watt Explorer. And I did some studies over the last couple of weeks. I got a pellet smoker for Christmas just to play with. And I found that the Jackery, the big Jackery, could run this thing for like 6 or 8 hours and hardly put a dent in the usage. I'm less than 20-30% of the power usage. And I predicted the 300 watt Jackery would easily run a pellet smoker all day without even half trying, maybe 6 or 8 hours. Both of them have the ability to put solar panels on them, and which could extend your brisket, smoking period even more. And then I just did an experiment earlier in the week where there's snow on the ground. You know, the guys, when that snow thing is. And I have a GeoPro, a Rockwood GeoPro trailer. It has 570 watts of solar panels on it and a 400 amp hour lithium battery. So 5,000 watt hours of storage. And I ran this thing doing chicken wings and all kinds of other stuff. And you can't even put a dent in the battery power because the 570 watts of solar panels is more than you need for this pellet smoker. So I'm also going to do a few other experiments because I'm going to the manufacturers and I'm asking for, induction cook plates and, a variety of other things just to try, because I'm really a proponent of going out and boondocking on your own, and one thing that I do not like is at a campground, when you open the door up, it hits the next camper beside you. I like it in the woods. I really, really do. So being able to go have a tailgating party, with your friends is great. I've also done a fair amount with F-150 Power Boost hybrid truck. And in that case, what I've done is be able to split that off so it can run 2 RVs for, the better part of a week, right off of the built-in generator. And of course, you got solar panels on there. You could go hang out. You could hang out for a week without a generator. I mean, this is cool stuff running off of solar and the built-in inverter generator that's like in the F-150 Power Boost. Yeah, and the Jackery stuff. Now you've used the one Jackery to run everything on your vintage trailer a couple of times. Have you not?
That's how we use it. So the vintage trailer, we have the same Jackery 1500, and when we use that vintage trailer, that's all I don't even bother plugging in. I just plug right into the Jackery, and in fact, I can take the Jackery and put it under where the plug comes in is the dining bench. I can put the Jackery under the dining bench, and it just run a solar panel out, and I'm set.
Yeah, and I've asked them to see if they would make extensions for the solar panel thing, and they're promising to talk about it, blah, blah, blah. But I would like to put 25-foot extensions so that you could keep this power brick at your RV, and then run that would be in the shade, and go ahead and put your panels outside. Now, one of the other things I'm experimenting with, because you guys all know I'm a rock and roller, right? Even though I look calm, mild, mannered, Clark Kent. When I was a kid, I had hair down to here, and I used to jump through fireballs. During the day, I would be calibrating nuclear guidance systems with my hair pulled back. And I let my hair down. I put on a chrome jumpsuit, and I would literally jump through fireballs in my rock band. And Tony's going, what?
Well, we haven't been that different in our past.
Well, but what I've been doing now is an experiment of how long I can run a sound system off of battery power alone, which is just fascinating. Modern stuff is so efficient. LED lights and Class D amplifiers and all kinds of things, because I'm setting up a series of experiments here of going out and say in like a church parking lot and being able to do a worship thing, or being able to go to, do a wedding party thing on the beach with a sound system. Modern lithium batteries are incredibly good. And you hook that up with something like these modern inverters. And the thing is, those Jackeries are pure sine inverters. There's no hum, no buzz, no nothing. I got to tell you, it's fascinating. And especially you put a couple hundred, I've got 400 watts of solar panels on it. That will completely recharge that thing in a day.
Yeah.
With decent sun.
we also took the modern camper camping with only the Jackery and did 2-3 months on the road. And that Jackery just kept us, it even ran the air conditioner for an hour and a half with my RV soft start.
Yeah. Everybody wants to do air conditioners for hours, and and that's still kind of bleeding edge technology, but you can get an hour or so runtime out of this. I generally figure about 1,000 watt hours a minimum for an air conditioner per hour. You sometimes closer to 1,200 or 1,400 depending on what air conditioner you've got. But back in the lab, I've got all of this set up and I've got everything metered up and documented, so I can kind of go figure all of this out. You don't stand a chance with regular flooded lead acid batteries. But lithium batteries are amazing. Now, we are going to be discussing lithium batteries in 2 days, are we not, Tony?
Yes, we are. Yeah, absolutely.
And we're going to go through, I've been doing a lot of studying over the last year of what it would take to upgrade your RV. Now, if you are plugged into shore power all the time, you don't need to upgrade to a lithium battery. Use whatever cheap batteries you want in there. It doesn't really matter. But if you want to be able to go out in the woods or the mountains or the beach, wherever the heck you like, any place but a campground, then you're going to want to have the best storage possibilities. And lithium batteries work pretty amazing. The nice thing about things like the Jackery units, that's little portable things. As my kids said, look at that, Dad. You could put ribs on this thing, hook it onto one of the little Jackeries out there, where you're camping. Then you could go out canoeing around or whatever you want and come back in 4 or 5 hours, and then you're ready to eat. And I went, yes. And I think I said, if we meet up and we're going to do a smoked brisket chili. Is that right?
Yeah.
You have laid claim that you have never lost a chili contest?
Never lost a chili cook-off. Never. Yet.
Okay. So I can't claim that, but I do pretty good with a grill. So I'm going to ask my guys at Z Grills if they'll send me one of their portable Z Grills, which would be fabulous. And then we'll meet someplace, wherever the heck it is, and then we'll sit around and drink beer for 5 or 6 hours or whatever it takes to smoke a brisket. And then we can make brisket. I've seen, there's a few recipes for that, but I'm pretty sure you could come up with a pretty good idea for that, right?
Oh, without a doubt. Oh yeah. Yeah. The
and remember, beer and bourbon, that's my drink of choice. Wine is okay, but
yeah. I know some good beer. I'll bring some that'll knock your socks right off.
That's what we need if we're going to be sitting there for 6 hours babysitting. Well, you don't have to do anything with a pellet smoker grill. You
right.
Just fill it up with pellets and turn the thing on and just let it go. But of course, I got meters on it and running because I want to see what the power requirements are.
The bad thing is 6 hours. If we pick the right beers, we may not, we may not stand up to find out what's in this.
Now, I will admit, back in the 70s, in my 20s, I was a very practiced drinker and I could do a lot. Nowadays, much quieter, much calmer kind of stuff. So, but I could sit there if we're just hanging out for the afternoon, I could drink a 6-pack. I mean, I'm just telling you, don't expect me to split a 6-pack with you for the afternoon.
No, I wouldn't. I would bring lots. But here's a shocker, and I see that you're sitting down. I have not drank a beer all year.
Really?
Yeah.
I haven't drank a beer in 26 hours.
Oh, well, I put myself, as you can see, I displaced a lot of water in the pool, and I put myself on a diet, and included on that diet is no beer. And that has been, and I'm near Beer Bellies. If you have not been to Quartzsite, to our audience, there is a pop-up bar here called Beer Bellies. Great music, great beer, great times, and I can see it over there, and I haven't been. So it's a little bit of willpower, but I need to.
This is all fun.
Yeah.
What are the things that I'm working on? Since my one son is, he does like $1,000 wedding cakes and stuff. I mean, but he does a lot of this. He experiments with stuff that's, gluten-free cakes and sugar-free cakes and lactose, free and all that other stuff. And so what we're going to do is a series of experiments with cooking from like this GeoPro, and he's going to include his recipes. So if you are in fact, intolerant to gluten or whatever, he specializes in sweets that are safe. That are safe for you. And so, and I've promised to do recipes once that's, once we get going with that. Yeah.
That'd be fantastic.
And he cooks, he does a lot of baking. He teaches at the one local tech high right now. And so they have to do stuff that's, that they know is, for people that have peanut allergies. So he's very, very aware of all of that other stuff. So when you're doing somebody with a wedding cake, what he does is he'll go through and make dozens, he'll do like dozens and dozens of cupcakes, each group of them with like a different flavor profile or whatever, and let the brides or whatever, grooms, whatever, taste whatever they want. And then he's going to replicate that in the full size thing. So then I get to eat all of the fallout left over. Luckily, I got a high metabolism. I just eat what I want. It's not fair, man. I know.
One of the most fun things I remember when Peggy and I were planning our wedding is visiting all the local bakeries and trying cakes, because they'll give you a ton of different cakes.
Oh, and, yeah. You don't want them to be disappointed with the cakes. And I think Kevin could actually be, I'm teaching him mechanical electrical engineering right now. He is one smart puppy, let me tell you. And and so, he said someday he may go work for like KitchenAid or something, but he likes doing this stuff right now. He loves teaching and cooking. And I said, well, we're going to see how much we can actually get out of a little kitchen in like that little GeoPro toy hauler, and along with, extra stuff on it. So I think it'll be a fascinating thing. We will include recipes and videos on how to do all of it, because I know you guys like to eat too.
And for anybody who's read my daily RV reviews over on RV Travel, you will know how exasperated I am by the 17-inch RV ovens, but the GeoPro comes with a 22-inch RV oven.
Yeah, GeoPro, it's pretty nice. I mean, and I'm hoping here this spring to get Ford to loan me an F-150 Lightning. I've also talked to Atlas, to GM about getting a Hummer EV, but take it out to some of these, campground things. There's also, I'm very close to West Virginia, and there's some absolutely gorgeous, what they call primitive campgrounds around here. And basically it's a gravel road going back to a gravel spot, and there's no hookups, there's no nothing, but they're just stunningly beautiful places. And so what I'd like to do is go take that stuff out, some of them got lakes attached to them, go fishing, or, my wife is a painter. I said, she can do some of this, plein air painting, where you just paint stuff in the woods or birds or animals or whatever. So, this could be a fun way to just go take an experiment with, just how far I can push this boondocking without power.
But Mike, how well do the birds fly after they've been painted?
Oh, stop. Oh, stop. Oh, gosh, don't quit your day job, man. That's right. I'll be here all week. Make sure you tip your barmaids and waiters, right?
Oh,
Good
man.
Lord.
Well, Mike, it's always a pleasure anytime we can hang out and share things. And so we are bumping up against the next thing going on here, but I sure appreciate you taking some time to share the knowledge with folks. And as soon as I can find a good internet signal, I'll post this video.
Okay, very, very good. Well, it should be, that's right, because it's going to be up on your thing. You got a link to it. If you send me the link, if you just send me the link, I'll post it. Where do you want it to land?
Well, I think it records to
it's in the cloud,
computer,
and there'll be links right in there.
Okay, if that's the case, I'll send it to you.
Yeah, if you can, and then I'll post it. And we'll post it wherever we can. But thank you all for hanging in there with us. And
indeed,
I must apologize for Tony's jokery.
Well, you have
no apologies necessary.
You have a jackery and I'm a jokery. So there we go.
All right. Thank you all. Thank you all for coming along and hanging out with us. See you later.
And thank you for reading RV Travel.
Yes, thank you.